A Kangaroo Fern production.
Welcome
to Gorilla Podcast, Fresheyes.
So one thing kind of led to the next, and before you know it, I was starting up my own PR business, and now I have my own PR company where I work for adventurers, sailors, digital nomads, people that are living an inspirational lifestyle. Basically, if you're doing something that other people are going to find really exciting and different, and if you're living life, differently, then I help them, those kind of people, share their story by writing about them in magazines and getting them podcast interviews, getting them interviews and features in newspapers, and so it's honestly all down to our trip. If we hadn't have watched that Laura Decker Netflix show back in 2015, if we hadn't have constantly put ourselves out of our comfort zone, learning to sail, buying a boat sight unseen, learning how to navigate the world and then crossing the oceans, I would never have dreamt that I would have started my own business. And it was a life-changing trip in many ways, and especially because I got a whole new career out of it as well, which is really exciting. Well, you can hack your own PR, so to say. You can do your own PR. It's not impossible to do your own PR. It just takes time, and public relations is all about building relationships. So the reason that PR agencies are successful in what they do is because they've built contacts with people, and that's why you kind of tend to have a niche. So my niche is obviously the adventure, travel, sailing field. So I've built up quite a few contacts in that niche, which then enables me to reach out to those people and say, hey, I've got a client who is a yacht charter who can speak about kite surfing in the Caribbean. And so then I'll arrange for them to do a podcast interview with that person. And so they speak as a subject matter expert, but at the same time, they're getting the name of their business out there. The show notes of the podcast will have a link to their website in there. So they're building, the links on the internet, which is good for SEO. There's lots of little ways. Then, the podcasts will then share the podcast with their audience. The business will also share it on their social pages. And it's all about leveraging every time they get a media hit. It's about leveraging that to then share it around. So in your case, you could try and find other podcasters that you could also do an interview on, and then you could interview them on your podcast, and then obviously both share it on your socials. You could try and get an article in local Adelaide magazines. Mm-hmm. It's all about kind of niching down and thinking, okay, who are my ideal audience? Where do they hang out? What kind of things are they reading? What kind of things are they watching? Whereabouts on Facebook do they hang out? What kind of groups are they in? And then targeting those publications or podcasts or newspapers that are relevant to those people. And a lot of people kind of come to me and say, oh, we want to be in Forbes and the Times magazine. And I mean, it's the thing is, it's, for starters, it's unrealistic that they will reach those kind of big publications. They're often paid to play, but also you've really got to think in a magazine like that, often the people that are reading it are not going to be interested in your business. So if out of 100% of people, 0.1% are actually interested in your business, is it really even worthwhile being in that magazine when you can find a really targeted publication that, for example, might be all about sailing, but we know that 95% of the people that are reading that magazine care about sailing, are interested in sailing, and are going to be interested in your story. So it's about finding those publications and then creating a pitch. So a pitch is something everybody can do. There are things that make pitches better, but it's all about trial and error as well. If you send out 5 pictures and you don't get a reply, tweak it a little bit and send it again. But essentially what you're going to be saying in your pitch is introducing yourself and sharing an angle of your story. So while my story as a whole might be interesting, in saying that this point in time with COVID-19, I could look at what angle of my story might be more interesting, and that might be the fact that I homeschooled my children on the boat for 2 years. So now I know all about homeschool, and I also know about isolation because we sailed across the ocean and we were isolated for 3 weeks. And I know about provisioning because I had to stock our boat with 3 months worth of food. So those things are really relevant to what people are going through right now. So in my pitch, I would, write that about that angle of my story, and then send it off and hope that the editor that you've sent it to or the journalist that you've sent it to thinks that it's going to be useful for their readers, because the whole point of that is that you're sharing your story not to get benefit for yourself, although that is obviously what you want, but you've got to think about what the magazine's going to get out of it, and hopefully your story is going to be of interest to their readers. And so that's how other people can do their own PR. But like I said, it's time consuming and you often don't get a response. So it's not unusual to have to follow up 2, 3, 4 times. And it's pretty cutthroat. There's a lot of people that are fighting to get on that magazine page and get in that newspaper and get that podcast interview. But it can definitely be done. But it also, if anyone wants some help or advice, then there are plenty of PR professionals out there that can help, either in a small way. There's all different kind of size of packages, or you can get the whole service. But so I could keep going on about it, but basically, it's just about sharing your story and trying to find the right people who want to listen to it. Make content that adds value to their life and that is meaningful. And especially in these times now, if you had interviewed me a month ago, it would have been a different answer. But with the coronavirus and the way everyone's feeling right now, really it's important for creators to be mindful of what they're putting out and to put out things that are sensitive. Another good tip that I have is that it's a great time to do good. So if you can do something good in this time, it's quite likely that your business will do well. So it's a good kind of mantra to live by: do good to do well. But at the same time, don't do good just to build followers. People will be able to see right through that. If you do something good, or if you can tie yourself to somebody who's doing something good at the moment, if you can collaborate with somebody who's doing something really good and you have a genuine want to help people at this point in time, then you will do well and people will remember that. So as much as it's a scary time in the world and it might seem like now is not the time to get into PR, it is almost the best time to concentrate on putting your name out there, on doing good things that people are going to remember, because this will end and you can either kind of stop all of your PR and marketing and be forgotten, or you can really thrive during this time, remembered for doing something memorable. And it doesn't, it's not all about not everyone can save the world and not everyone's in that position to do something huge, but even if it's keeping people's spirits up, if it's doing something that's funny, if it's, people are going to need content during this time. But I think times are changing and the people are going to have to change it up a little bit and just find out what's working and be really sensitive to the situation. And maybe it's not all about, the individual anymore. We see so much about people that are so self-centered and it's all about them. Maybe it's time that things are going to change and it might be more about community and building relationships and how we can help other people going forward.